Thank you, everybody. So this is the Dripyard Drupal Canvas webinar. Canvas was released last week, and we're talking about how our themes work with it. My name is Mike Herschel, and for those of you that I don't know, I've been involved with Drupal for a long time, over 18 years of doing Drupal. I'm the primary developer behind Drupal's default theme called Olivero. I do a lot of stuff with Drupal core. I'm really proud of helping to bring single directory components into Drupal core. I do a lot of things on the admin side. I was joking with Andy earlier today. I broke something in core and then recently got it fixed. So I got 2 core credits for one. And yeah, I'm also a founder of Dripyard and the primary front-end developer for all these themes.
Yep, and I'm Andy Giles, long-term friend of Mike Herschel, co-founder of Dripyard. Got about 15 years plus Drupal development under my belt, mostly doing professional services, module development, API integrations, and continuous integration as well. And you'll mostly see me in the contrib space if you're on Drupal.org.
Yeah, so we have themes for sale. And our normal rate is $500 a theme. These include thousands of hours of blood, sweat, and tears, which is why it costs that much. And we support Drupal Canvas. And we have a couple coupon codes if you don't feel like spending that amount of money right now. What are those coupon codes, Andy?
Canvas 100 will give you $100 off. We've got 5 of those available, and that's going to expire at the end of the day today. We also have the Canvas 50, which will give you $50 off, and that's good for through the end of the year. And I will say, if you were in our last webinar, those themes look the same, but that's actually Canvas and not Layout Builder anymore. So you can still use either one, but obviously today our focus is on Canvas.
Yep. And those coupon codes are first come, first serve. So the first people to buy, to use those Canvas 100 coupon codes, will get to use those. So we have like a whole bunch of people, like 230 plus people have registered for this. Hopefully those people have actually clicked on the calendar appointments and are joining. And in our web forum, we asked, why are you joining? Just to make sure we cover most people's topics. I think a lot of people are just kind of interested in Canvas. They want to know how to start, how usable it is, what's different about it. They want to know why use Dripyard theme. What does Dripyard theme give you with Drupal Canvas? Where is Canvas going? What does Canvas not do? Someone wants to see Andy and I in a cage match. And of course, number 10 is magic and some cool vibes, which is definitely going to come. So anyway, I'm really thankful for, I feel like we have over 50 people more than our last webinar, and I feel that's so amazing, and it gives us a lot of really good, a good feeling. So thank you all for joining us. So today we're gonna talk a little bit about Canvas. We're gonna go into the history of Drupal page builders. We're gonna talk a little bit about Canvas, what Canvas is, and of course, the majority of this webinar is going to be live demos. So I want you to give us a little bit of grace with these live demos, because it's almost certain something's going to go wrong. You're going to see something break at some point, even though we've practiced this once or twice. We're going to talk about the limitations of Canvas. Canvas might not do everything that you think it does. During the Dries notes, there's a little bit of Dries note magic that goes into some of those videos. And we'll talk about what it does, what it doesn't do. We're going to talk about, of course, we're trying to sell you all Dripyard themes, and we're going to talk about our SDC architecture and how it interfaces with Canvas and some of the compromises and integrations that we've had to do to make everything work across the way. Andy is going to give a really cool demo on some of the recipes and code components and AI. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the future, which, future of Canvas, future of Dripyard, and I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of questions. We have this scheduled for 1 hour, but I'm guessing it's going to go long. Our last webinar went about an hour and a half, and y'all can kind of drop. This will be recorded, and we'll be throwing it up on YouTube and putting out a blog kind of link into it for everyone that can't make it. So yeah, so I've been involved with Drupal since Drupal 5. And back then, of course, we had templates in the block. Drupal 6 comes along and we have things like context and panels. Drupal 7, we have Display Builder, which I really, really liked Display Builder back in the day. After, like in modern Drupal, Drupal 8 and 11, added in a whole bunch of things, including things like paragraphs and layout builder. And then later there was like things like Site Studio, Gutenberg. And the thing is, I'm sure I'm missing 4 or 5 of these in here. The point of what I'm saying is there's a lot of page building options in Drupal. And, starting with today or with last week, there's Drupal Canvas. And, so the question is like, well, like with all these options in here, what does Drupal Canvas give you, or why would you even want to use Drupal Canvas as opposed to these, 10 or so other options? And so I had a discussion with some of the Canvas product team and came up with some of these bullet points by myself. But like the TLDR is that Canvas actually started by doing market research and design, and that differs from a lot of Drupal, a lot of Drupalism. The history of Drupal is mainly like developers creating clean, abstracted code, and then somehow those code abstractions get exposed to the UI. And the end user's like, why is it like this? Why do I have to go here to do this and here to do that? Canvas was designed by a designer, and it was largely coded by people that were getting paid as opposed to people that are volunteering. And that's important because if someone's getting paid, you can tell them what to do to keep them on the straight and narrow. Canvas is funded almost entirely by Acquia. So thank you, Acquia, for doing this. And Acquia is planning on putting even more money into this. Like as I go into some of the things that Canvas does not do, these are all under development. Like there's an enormous amount that Canvas will be doing that it does not yet do. In addition to that, as people start using Canvas and as things happen, the Canvas team will be iterating. Things will change as they realize, hey, this is not maybe the best. And talking to Ballant on the Canvas team, he mentioned that like one of the biggest deals is that as they're doing their development in Canvas, they question, why does Drupal do this? Should we do it this way? And things like that. And that's a really big deal. So I'm kind of going into this with the assumption that everybody has obviously heard of Drupal Canvas, but they don't quite know what Canvas is. So Canvas is a next-gen page builder. It's meant to beat the pants off of not just previous solutions like Layout Builder and Paragraphs, but also competitors such as Gutenberg, Wix, and Squarespace. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, Wix and Squarespace, they're not Drupal competitors. No one builds, sites on Drupal that they could do on Wix. And you're right on that, but with Wix and Squarespace, they have this user interface where you can drag and drop and assemble your pages, and people expect that now. It's important. When people spend a whole bunch of money on a Drupal site, they expect to have the same usability that they get on the $10 a month Wix site. And the goal is to make non-developers able to assemble these landing pages and lower that total cost of ownership and not have to rely on developers like me. Canvas also wants to easily edit content type templates, and it's also meant to build for the future with integrations into artificial intelligence and JSX, which is React. So if you have developers on your team that are not familiar with the ins and outs of Drupal theming, like I am, you can create JSX components and plug those into Canvas, and it will work. So I'm gonna go into some demos right now, and I'm knocking on wood right here that everything's gonna go well. So yeah, we don't have any questions yet, do we, Andy?
There was actually one question about if somebody had already purchased a theme, whether or not they'd have access to the latest release. And we've extended everybody's licenses through the end of the year, rolled a new
Yeah.
release this morning. So the answer is yes.
Yeah, so when you purchase a theme, you have an option. You get an automatic 2 free months of support and upgrades, and you can also purchase. You can upgrade that to a full year. But even for those that have purchased it over 2 months ago and didn't purchase the upgrade, we've extended everybody because that's the right thing to do. So demo time. So you all probably have seen this. This is a default Drupal installation right here with the beautiful Olivero theme. The only things that I have in here is I have Drush and I have Canvas already pulled in, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to enable navigation, and I'm going to enable Canvas. I want y'all to kind of see this from the beginning right here. This is a Drupal 11.3, which will be released momentarily. So it's right now we're in our release candidate for it. So here we are with Drupal default. Let's go ahead and we're going to enable the Neon Byte theme. And when we enable the Neon Byte theme, of course, we just have a basic theme. But let's go ahead and install some of these beautiful recipes that Andy has created. So when we go into our theme settings page, there's a whole bunch of options for things like color schemes, layouts, header settings. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to install some Drupal Canvas. We're going to install a Canvas demo and Canvas patterns right here. And I'm going to explain what patterns are in a little bit. So I'm going to hit the save button right here, and then all this is going to take a minute or so as it goes over as the batch API works on installing all this stuff. And then when we navigate to the home page, we will hopefully see a full website. And here we are. So this, if you've seen the Drupal Dripyard themes before, you have seen this. This is our Neon Byte theme, and it has some awesome menus at the top. It has a bunch of components. What's different about this is all Drupal Canvas. So I am going to hit the edit button right here. And we are now in the Canvas user interface. So I'm going to walk you through this user interface right here, and then I'm going to walk you through some of these components, some of these Dripyard components that we have right here. And then after this, I'm going to go over to another page right here, and we're going to build out a landing page. And that's going to be the majority of my demo. But yeah, so on the left-hand side, we have a little toolbar up here that has a couple tabs. There's a library tab that allows you to drag and drop and pull stuff over. There's a layer tab, a layers tab that allows us to drag things around. If you want to move a whole section up or down, you can easily do so. There's a libraries tab over here that allows, like, right now, it doesn't do a heck of a lot, but it will allow you to create and group components under folders and things like that. You can also see code components and patterns, which I'll be talking about. You can see a list of pages that you can create and templates, which we will do a short demo of in a bit. So the first thing that I want to show is all of these components that you're seeing right here. These are all Dripyard components. We have a bunch of basic components, things like headings, icons, text, videos, and images. We have a number of card components, form elements, and a whole bunch of just uncategorized stuff that we kind of lump into general. We have heroes, and then we have, of course, various layouts here. You can also see different views that are added. You can add menus and things like that. So you can see how we can drag in, views and kind of make these landing pages slightly dynamic. So at the top bar up here, I can create a new page by just select a new page. And at this point, I'm just going to call it something. I'm going to call it test. And you can kind of see right here, it's going to be at /test. I can review and publish this by selecting this checkbox right now and then hit publish. Now, if I go to this page, if I go to /test, I will see basically a basic page right here. So at this point, I can start dragging and dropping components. You can kind of see I can drag a card component in here. And when I select a component, we have a list of props to the right. And these are form fields that the components define. So you can see with our card right here, we have a form field for our eyebrow text, which is above our title. As I type in here, you can see these kind of update in near real time, and we can also select an image in here, and you can kind of see how things work in general. Now with Dripyard, we have each, like the vast majority of components you're going to want to wrap into a section. And our sections ensure like proper spacing between them, because like if you don't have consistent spacing, things start to look a little unprofessional, and we try to make it as easy as you can. When you add this dynamic section in here, you have different things like column counts, where you can select a column count of 4, and you can also change your row counts and things like that. From here, I can start dragging stuff around. I can drag a card. As I drag the card in there, it has some styling where it recognizes that it doesn't have enough space to go into a landscape mode, so it goes into a portrait mode. One of the things that I really, really like about Canvas is just I can copy and paste. So I'm using my keyboard right here. I'm using Command-C, Command-V, and I just hit Command-V a couple times, and now I can start dragging these things over. And this is like so nice, honestly. It's kind of night and day above working with Layout Builder. Like if you go back to Layout Builder after working with Canvas, you're kind of thinking to yourself, well, how do people deal with this? And the answer is that Layout Builder has a lot of modules that enable a better experience, but out of the box, it's a little bit tough. One of things that I'm really, really proud of within all of Dripyard themes is our color system. So you can kind of see, like right now we have, a white background. We have this concept of themes here, and then you can set themes on all your sections, and you can also set your themes on certain components. And what that means is if I set my theme to black, all the text that's within here will automatically adapt. And the way that I'm going to talk a little bit more about our color system coming up, but it's really important to make sure that you keep proper contrast between the surface colors and text colors, so people that have visual deficiencies will be able to properly read them and understand them. So of course, we have like the black theme. You can set to your primary color. And of course, we have like a light and then a dark, which is kind of like an off black right here. And what's kind of cool is like I can go into my layers right now, and I can actually duplicate this whole layer right here. And then I can get back in and set this to something like black. And you can see how different, you can kind of see how different this is right here. And I can get in here and start, maybe deleting stuff and add in different things, like if I want to add, I don't know, an icon card or tabs or something like that. I'll throw an icon card in there and kind of see these icon cards. And then if I even change that, you'll see like the icon colors will change and things like that too. So if I set this to light, you can kind of see how everything kind of works right here. A couple things that I really want to show off that we have done specific for Canvas is work on making sure that everything is usable when you're in your editor. And I'm going to kind of show you an example of that. So we have a carousel component right here. And the carousel component has it has a couple props in here, your maximum slides per view. So like, let's say I want like 4 different items in here at any given point. and I can turn on my pager and have the buttons outside and things like that. And I can throw in some, I can start to throw in some cards here, you know, and I can even go down here and start duplicating these cards. I'm just going to hit Command C, Command V, and you can kind of see as I get in here, this carousel. Ooh, I probably need to add a couple more in here. Let me exit out of that. Yeah, I only have 4. I need to put a couple more. You can kind of see that this works as intended. But one of the problems that we discovered with here is that when you start clicking on the carousel, you can't get to the cards because the carousel kind of takes over because of the JavaScript, and the iframe that actually renders your data in the back, the visual in the back is inert, which means you can't select it. We created on several of our components this concept of Canvas edit mode, where you can turn this on. And when you turn on Canvas edit, I guess these look exactly the same right now, but you can kind of see if I edit one, I can start dragging this around and stuff like that and changing things. And it's pretty nice. And even if I accidentally leave this Canvas edit mode on, when I get into either preview mode or I save it, this canvas edit mode will not work like when as your component is displayed to the user. It only works when it is in edit mode. So we can kind of toggle this on and off if we want to see how that works. Another place where we use that is in tabs. So we have tab groups here, and then I can start throwing in tabs in here, and like let me throw in some some items in the tab here. And then I'm going to start duplicating this down here. So I'm just going to hit Command C, Command V a couple times. And of course, I can't click on these tabs until I get up to the tab component and I turn on this canvas edit mode. And at this point, I can get in here and I can call this tab 1. This I can call tab 2. I can have multiple items in here. And if I preview, my tabs will kind of work as expected right here. And this is pretty cool. So a couple other, I think maybe now I should go over and kind of build out that landing page. Do we have any questions, Andy, or how am I doing here on time? And you're muted if you're talking.
We're doing pretty good on time. I think we have a couple we can answer.
Yeah.
Pop that on screen.
All right.
Looks like that's coming up. But the first one was basically related to the support for Canvas. And yeah.
So do we know if this will remain supported? So what is this?
I think they're just asking Canvas in general, the support of it long term, which I think the approach to Canvas is a little bit different than Layout Builder.
Yes. So
good question.
yeah, that's a really good question. It's a question that I've asked several times too. So like I've had discussions with Lori Timley, he's the product manager for Drupal Canvas. I'm like, hey, you know, like what happens if Acquia kind of just pulls the plug on this? What happens if this and that and the other? And like these are all valid questions right here. So the answer to this is like number one, Acquia is all in on this. And talking with Lori, Acquia has recently like earmarked more money for the continuation of development for Canvas. And I don't know if that involves even expanding the Canvas team, but Lori kind of indicated that that might be the case when I talked to him. He is on vacation right now, so I haven't talked to him in a week or so, but that sounds great. But then like, all right, well, like large companies can change their minds, you know, like, well, that's the way it is right now, but what if that changes? One of the really cool things that the Canvas team has, or that Canvas has done, is they have contracted a lot of Canvas development out to core committers and core contributors. So let's say if Acquia does pull the plug, which is not going to happen, at that point our normal Drupal committers are the same people that built this, so they have that institutional knowledge that that can continue to maintain Canvas. So that's, both of those make me feel like very confident about it. Any other questions, Andy, or hopefully
Yeah, there's
that
quite a
answers
few,
the
but I
question?
think most of them we actually answer coming up in our next sections. So we'll go
Yeah,
through there and then probably push most of the questions towards the end.
yeah. All right, cool. So I'm gonna do I'm gonna build out a landing page for let's call it Visit Asheville. Asheville is where Andy lives. It's in the Southern Appalachian Mountains in the U.S. It's one of my favorite places. It's like really gorgeous. So I figured, this theme kind of lends itself well toward that type of stuff. It's really easy to get imagery. So let's build out a landing page with this. So this is kind of stock Drupal. I changed around the logo. I changed the primary color, and then I changed these top level menu items up here. But other than that, this is kind of stock Neonbyte with stock Drupal with stock Canvas. So I am going to hit the edit button right here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a hero. When I create this here, the first thing I need to do is add a section. The section, this dynamic section allows the content, the background of the content to go edge to edge. It will manage spacing. It will manage like the content width and things like that. So I have my section here, and I'm going to go ahead and add my hero. So the hero is right here. So the hero gives you a couple different props, and we can set things like our text color, alignment of the content, and but we still need to add an image in here. So I'm going to go ahead and add this image, and I have some images already uploaded. I'm going to select this beautiful one of the mountains right here, and I am going to remove this image width right here so it doesn't try to downscale it here. Now, if I preview it right here, we can kind of see that we have a little bit of a hero. Oh, look, that's Looking Glass Mountain right there. And I'm going to add some other components on here. So the first thing I'm going to do is add some text, and I am going to add a button group. And to add that button group, I want the buttons to align kind of horizontally with each other. So I'm going to insert this flex wrapper here. And then I'm going to drag in some buttons. I'm going to make this button large, give it a suffix icon, and maybe call this Visit Today. And then I'm going to just copy and paste it. And on the pasted one, I'm just going to make it a default button right here. And you can see that this is kind of coming together pretty good, which is pretty neat. But one thing that you might notice is like, well, okay, I can see that you did this because you built this and you know how it works. But how would I know that I need to add the section, the hero, and then add the flex wrapper and then the buttons in there and stuff like that? That could be kind of complicated for people coming in. So Canvas has this concept of patterns. And when you have a pattern, you can basically group all that stuff together and add that all together. And we ship a number of patterns with our recipes. So of course we have a section pattern here called Hero with Image. And so this gives me everything that I just put out, and I just need to populate. I need to populate the data here. So I'm gonna select what I have here, and you can kind of see that, hey, this is pretty cool. But I can also modify it. And one thing I really, really like is the concept of videos into here. So I'm going to remove the image right here, and I'm going to throw in this video. And I have this video already uploaded into my media library. and I can set it to autoplay. And if you set it to autoplay, it will still respect like the end user's prefers reduced motion setting. So if they don't want animations on, it will automatically turn those off. And it will also remember the setting if you pause it and you know, like if I pause this and refresh, it'll remember that, and it keeps that setting kind of site wide. So even though like a lot of people are kind of a little bit of hesitant to use background videos, it's actually as accessible as you're gonna make it. So at this point, we have a background video right here. I'm gonna change this to desktop. Let's go ahead and add another pattern in here. So there's a whole bunch of like really, really cool things that you can do. So like I started by doing these like promo patterns, you know, and these promo patterns, like let me just add a image in here. These promo patterns do things like this. You know, you can see that kind of looks pretty good. But then I thought, well, like, what if I take this text right here and I swap that out with things like tabs, you know? So at that point, I created section like promos with tabs. So let me add that in here. So I'm going to maybe change this one to dark. So at this point, if I scroll down, I have like, you know, basically tabs inside of my promos, which is kind of cool. And this is something like I really like kind of demoing this right here because it's something that Layout Builder cannot do really easily. Like Layout Builder doesn't have like the normal concept of slots where you can insert a component into a component into a component, which is what we have right here. You know, we have the dynamic layout component, we have a tab group component, we have a tab component, and then we have a text component in here. And it makes things like very infinitely flexible, but at the same time, it allows you to shoot yourself into the foot just a little bit. And so like the Dripyard themes add a little bit of guardrails. And then we also ship these patterns, which kind of show some very easy ways to do stuff. So something else that we might want to do is you might want to just kind of move like the image over to the left and the content over to the right. You can easily do that on the layers panel. So you can see like right here we have you can see we have, I'm going to move my image over into somewhere into cell 1 up here if I can drag this in here. And then I'm going to start moving this stuff into cell 2. And so I got my header into cell 2. Let me just drag this stuff over like this too. And I want to make sure I drag my tab group over, drag my heading up, and move my button group over here too. Let me drag this over, see if I can just plop this right down. Sometimes dragging things around is a little bit of a pain in the butt with this, and this is something that the Canvas team is totally working on. Let me see if I can grab this tab group and drag it up right there. And you can kind of see how things work right here. It's pretty cool. Some other patterns that we have in here that we could easily add. We have accordion groups in here. So the accordion groups do exactly what you think they are. They're accordions. When you are in the Canvas edit mode, they're expanded, and you can, and that's so the slots within there are available. So I can even, you know, throw in, of course, like, I don't know, any type of thing I want into here, and it will work as you would expect it to work. You can see I have a card in my accordion right there. And what's kind of interesting is I even played around with like, what if I have an accordion and a tabs and a carousel, and nesting stuff all together there. It actually works, which is like pretty ridiculous. I'm not advocating y'all do that. The accordion is kind of cool too, because we can, let me get into my accordion group right here. You can, we have a variation for borders. So you can see that, like, instead of the background color, we have borders in between here. And then if I'm going to delete this right here, and let's see, let me get into my dynamic section. Let me delete this. And we have promos with accordions that look pretty good. So you can kind of see how these work right here. And like the TLDR of this is there's a whole bunch of, like, there's a very large component library that we have here between statistics. Let's see if we have a component for statistics. So section title with statistics. Let's add that in here. Add this somewhere in the middle right there. I don't know if I injected that in the right place, but we'll see. You can kind of see how this stuff works. Once again, these animations right here, right, how you see it animated, that respects the preferred reduced motion. We have a ton of components right here that just kind of work really well, including things like YouTube videos and different statistics and date stuff. Yeah. Andy, am I missing anything here? I feel like I'm kind of going in circles.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think this is showing off, most what we wanted to do. So
Yeah. Any questions or?
yeah, there is a lot of questions. I think it might be best to just catch most of them towards the end, though.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them, again, you're going to cover in slides coming up. So
One thing that I haven't done yet is the content templates, and I want to kind of show a little bit about how that works.
definitely some questions on that.
Yeah. So let me actually get back to this really quick, and I'm just going to publish it really quick. So I think this is my home page right here, and I'm just going to go here. You can kind of see that we have a landing page built. So content templates allow you to map your data and override your node template. So I'm going to watch, but there's some limitations with that. So let's just kind of see like how far we can get right here. So let me drag this over right here. So right now I only have the two default content types, articles and basic page. So I am going to create an article right here. I'm going to upload an image. Is my alt. Do not use my alt text. This is my body. And I'm going to add a tag in here called test. So at this point, this is kind of what we're looking at with NeonByte by default right here. Let's go ahead and take that over with Canvas. So let's get into Canvas. So I'm going to go into Pages. I have to enter it this way, and I can go into templates right here. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is that I want to create an article here. I want to create an article, and when I go to templates, I have to select full content right here. So I'm going to add a template here, and this template right now is we're taking over the article, like that whole article node content, that article template. But there's a couple limitations. So I'm going to add an image component in here. And you see these little link icons up here where my mouse is on the top right? I can now select my image here, and it will load the image that I have. I'm going to select, let's actually set it so there's no maximum image size here. And now I can add like a little text component in here, and I can link this to the body. And you can see, like, right now I don't have the the sections in there. But what's interesting are like, so let me publish this and show you where we're at right here. All right, so we have that published. I'm going to go to our content. You can kind of see how this is working right now. Right now, it's a little bit ugly. But we have a couple fields here that we can't really use. Like, for example, the tags field. Like right now, Canvas cannot map data to a tags field. It cannot map data to a link field, which means that like if I go into my content type and let's say I manage fields and I wanna create, you know, a regular link field or something like this. Test, and I don't know, you know, just leave all the defaults in here. And I populate that. Canvas does not currently have the ability to map complex data because this is one field with two different fields in there. It's like a composite field. And Canvas can only at this point map simple data types. So what that means is that like when you're doing any type of content templates, it can only really do very simple things. It can do like an array of images. It could, you know, which allows you to do multiple images. It could do basic text. It can also do like if you have a group, if you have numbers or something like that, you could do that. But as soon as you want to make it like a little bit more complicated and like really take into account, you know, the power of Drupal, you want to do things like, I don't know, an entity reference and display that, or you want to display your tags, or you want to display a link field. You want to maybe have a custom field from like the geolocation module or something like that. That's not yet going to work with Canvas. And like it will work in the future, but right now it's not quite there. And what this means is like for practical purposes, Canvas is largely a landing page builder, which is still like freaking awesome. I'm not like trying to throw any type of shade on Canvas right now, but that's really the status of where we're at right now. So Andy, do you want to, are there any more questions or should I talk about more things that Canvas can and can't do or?
Yeah, I think if there's anything that you want to list in the work in progress that you haven't already, go ahead and do
Yeah,
that. And then we'll do the demos and then go into Q&A.
cool. All right. So like, as you can see on the slide right here, like Canvas is very much a work in progress and it's going to be a work in progress for forever as any great software should be. But a couple of the things, that like are fairly noticeable are on this list right here. Like Canvas has a capability to have global regions, but as soon as you put things in a global region, for example, you can't change visibility to have them appear on one page and another page. And then things in global visibility also lose template suggestions, which can cause problems if you want to look different in one region versus another region. I already talked about prop types, only basic prop types being supported. Right now, Canvas does not support multilingual. Canvas in Drupal core does not have the ability to restrict slots to certain components. For example, if I want to restrict the tab group content to only, or the tabs content within tab group only to tabs, we don't have the ability to do that. That's coming. There's issues for most everything in here. I demoed content templates just a second ago. We don't have the ability to override single nodes for content templates like Layout Builder currently has. And there's just some various usability things like Canvas can't group props. Right now, we cannot unpublish pages through the Canvas UI. There's a little bit of funkiness with like if you make changes to your components, in certain cases that can necessitate removing the component from your content and then re-adding it. And AI is still very much a work in progress for all that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of our single directory components and just kind of walk you through on some of that and talk about our color system, assuming that we have time here. And after that, I think Andy's going to talk a little bit about code components and AI and some cool recipe stuff.
Yeah, we're at
So
11:45. You want to do my demo and then go into code components? I mean, into
yeah,
the
let's do
color
it.
system.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
All
cool.
right. Yeah. So let's see here.
All right.
That's
Yeah.
a
So I wanted to make sure we answered everybody's requests there for the cage match, so we can all see who won that. In addition to
Thanks for
that,
that.
like one of the cool features of Drupal Canvas is code components, and what code components are a JSX based component that you can create either in the browser or in VS Code or wherever, and then import them by CLI. They're rendered with Preact, which is a lightweight React alternative. They can handle importing other code components, so you can nest them and have inheritance in your components. The components have props and slots, and the slots can even have SDCs in them, which is really cool. So you could build out, your whole section of a page in JSX, and then if there's things from Dripyard that are SDC based, drop those in, and it'll render as well. You can import packages from a CDN, and by default, Tailwind is bundled. Even though we're not using it, you could actually use some Tailwind classes, and they will
Hey,
be.
Andy, we
Yep.
are seeing your VS Code. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah.
All right, just making sure.
Yep. Yep. Um, so let's see. So the next thing we'll talk about, you can use SWR to fetch data from JSON API. And it uses next image, which is a fork created by Ballant from Next.js that allows you to render, images in a responsive manner and set pixel density and stuff like that. And then the one limitation that everybody should be aware of with code components is that they are client-side rendered currently. So if you have, SEO concerns, you'll want to make sure that you use SDCs at least for now. So what we'll do now is go into a demo here. I was sharing my screen a little early just to get that cage match out of the way. But what I have here is a recipe I've created, which is really cool way for sharing config and content, even with developers on your team. So like I wanted to show Mike something or, get him content for this demo. Created a recipe that has all the media and files bundled up and the config. I ship it to him. He can just, install it, and then he has all that content ready for the webinar. So I'm going to go ahead and run a recipe here. As you'll see, this creates some config, enables some modules, and adds some media. And if I pull up the Neon Byte site, you'll see, this is the Canvas landing page. So what we'll do, we'll go into
And that is
pages.
Great Lakes as opposed to
Yep.
Neon Byte.
Yeah, this is Great Lakes. So I've got a example webinar landing page here that I've created. I'm going to go into the library for Canvas. So these are all the components, that you have available as SDCs or even code components that have been enabled. Got patterns that Mike walked through earlier, and code components is the new thing. So let's say your client wants a Masonry grid and you don't really know Twig, you don't know Drupal, you don't even have access to the file system to commit those things. You can basically create the component right here in the UI. And so what I did in this example is I took a like a pre-prompt that we have that we're going to publish with our theme and put it into ChatGPT and said, create a component that uses all the patterns and variables from Dripyard base and, create a carousel, or not a carousel, a masonry grid for me. And this is what it spit out, right? So we've got a component here that basically renders a wrapper and the image itself, invoking the next image. And then we've got a component that loops over all the props, which are image uploads, and renders that child component. So you can see nesting, and you can see how props are defined. And then you've got over on the right all the prop types. You see we've got like 12 images, and we have the type. So when you're building out the component, it's it's in this code section of the library. And when you click add to components, it makes it available to be used on the site. So now if I go into the library, you'll see I've got my masonry grid. I'm actually going to put this in one of our wrappers. So drop a section and a header. And then I'll drop in the masonry grid. And you can see it, shows right in the browser, which is really cool. And I'm going to start just associating images. And so these are all the images, aside from the base Great Lakes ones, these are all the ones that I bundled in the recipe. And we'll put in a couple of these just to get it showing nice. Asheville's pretty amazing. As you can tell, if you've never been, you should come to Drupal Camp Asheville. It's the #1 Drupal camp in the world, some say. All right, so I think I'll get a couple more in here just so you can see the full grid. All right, cool. So you can see, we basically have this really nice masonry grid. Of course, I reused some images, but you basically solved that requirement for your client that needs it. And if we go back to the full view of that page, there you go. So pretty awesome that we could just do that all in the browser, not have to worry about committing it or anything like that. We could have done it, like I said, in a code environment and then committed it. And we can also, in a dev environment, which is basically what I did, is create this, export it to config, and then ship it with your configuration, or even create a recipe, as I did in this instance. And yeah, there it is. So the one thing you'll notice, it obviously took me a little bit of time to put that together in the live demo. So, and you're probably wondering, well, what if we want to just pull, dynamic data, right? We don't want to have to upload it every time. And Code Components supports that as well. So if we go back into my library and go to code, I have this dynamic masonry grid component that I've created, which is basically the exact same thing, except it uses use SWR and JSON API. So it's basically just making a JSON API query to Drupal's backend to return all the media entities and images associated with those. And the really cool thing about this is you see I have no props anymore because I don't need to upload. It's dynamic. You could have a prop for like a query string or something like that if you wanted to filter it, which is awesome. And then in data fetch, you get this nice interface that shows you what's actually being returned from the API. So you can drill down and see, all the properties of the response and build out your component that way. So if I add this to my component now and head over to my layers, drop in the dynamic masonry grid instead and publish it. And just to prove that it's loading on the front end, there you go. So again, this is client-side rendered, which is probably fine for this instance, but definitely be aware of that when you're creating these code components, just so you know when it's appropriate to use them and that kind of stuff. Super powerful tool. I mean, I think this is really a core thing in Canvas that's going to help bring outsiders into Drupal and just lower the barrier to entry for creating components and theming. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the crash course. Again, there is an AI module for Canvas, Canvas AI. It's currently in development and not quite ready. So I think, if you're wanting to use Canvas today, especially with Dripyard, we've got this like pre-prompt that we'll be shipping soon that you can use, put it in your prompt and then define the feature, and it should create a component just like what I showed. Back to you, Mike.
Awesome. That's pretty cool stuff. All right, so I think I'm still sharing my screen. There it is. So let's get back over to my slides. I'm going to walk through some SDC architecture. We have about 4 minutes here, so I'm going to be pretty quick. And we should also flash those coupon codes. What are they? Canvas 50 and Canvas 100, if y'all haven't done that yet. So I want to talk about our components. We have like each theme that we ship comes with over 50 components. We have an integrated in color system, and the color system is pretty cool because all of the colors will map to the theme, which basically you can see, like in this particular case right here, we have a surface color, we have multiple text colors, and what that means is as the theme changes, the components will automatically adapt. Each of our components comes with with like very robust documentation. The documentation we actually have on our website. If you go to dripyard.com and just go to documentation, you can kind of start browsing around. You can see that in this particular case, we're going to be looking at icon card, and you can see that we show all the different props that are available, the custom CSS custom properties, and different other layout options and accessibility concerns or things to take into account. We have usage and things like that, which is super useful when you copy and paste your code if you're trying to integrate it into standard Drupal. So all of our components, like we'll have our standard CSS variables kind of map to our different color layers. And it's all written in modern CSS and modern JavaScript. We don't have any type of pre-processing or anything like that, which is like super useful because you're not going to have to worry about updating your node modules or gulp tasks or anything like that, 5 years down the line. And everything is just fairly modern and very clean. Like I'm really proud of our themes because they are built to be not just used but modified and extended. And if you're a Drupal developer, you should be able to come in here and you should be able to understand what's going on and maybe even learn a few things. Switching back to our color system right here. Our color system is built like you're able to go in through the user interface and change your primary color right there. And once you do that, that sets a CSS variable that's on the HTML element. It's called theme setting base primary color. From there, we use a relative new CSS technology called relative color syntax that's fully supported, and we create a whole palette based off of these. And this creates the semantic layer. We create a primary palette and then a neutral palette. On the theme layer, we have 5 different themes. We have, like, as you saw in Canvas earlier, we have like a white theme, a light theme, a primary theme, a dark theme, a black theme. And within each of those, we create tokens that are used by the text to surface into borders. Like, for example, the white theme will have like 3 different, like each theme will have the same variables in there. It will have like 3 different surface colors, 4 different text colors, various different colors for borders and stuff like that. And that ensures that we remain accessible no matter what theme you're doing or if you're changing around your colors. And at that point, we have the component layer, and the component layer is what I showed you within the icon card component earlier, where we map different CSS variables to those theme colors, and that allows you to easily override those within your sub theme if you so desire. And we already went through Andy's demos right here. Hopefully y'all are using our coupon codes. And I also want to just like state that like we do consulting services, tailored around our themes. So if you purchase a theme and you want to build a custom theme based on top of Dripyard base that like pulls in this component library, we can help you with that. We can do training, we can do Canvas training. All of our stuff works great with Canvas. And yeah, you can email me or Andy directly, or just use our contact form on our website. And so coming up, we have a new theme that's going to be released hopefully before the end of the year. We have a number of new components that I have issues for, that Andy keeps on saying. Well, we have a number of people who are creating websites using our themes right now, and they're like, it would be great if you did this. And we love feedback like that because you know, as more people use our themes, we add new components, which you will get for free, assuming that you have support, which, you know, we give 2 free months of support. We are continuously experimenting with AI to make sure our stuff works as great as possible with AI. And yeah, a lot of Christmas time and rest and relaxation coming up. And so let's do some Q&A since we're kind of getting close to time.
Yeah, I think we're right at, and I have to say I miss Mike Anello because he triaged our Q&A last time and did a way better job. So I was struggling to keep up and prep for my little section. But I think we have some ready to roll. Put on screen. Yep.
All
Right.
right. So does Dripyard out of the box config only work with Drupal CMS 2? What if we use normal Drupal 10? Is it still good to plug those config in? The answer is yes. It will work with Drupal CMS 2. It will work with Drupal CMS 1 and it will work with standard Drupal core. My demos were only on Drupal core. Now, those recipes that depend on Canvas, it does not allow you to enable those unless Canvas is already enabled. So what you'll have to do is you have to, if you don't have Drupal CMS 2, which will come with Canvas, you have to download Canvas, you have to enable Canvas, and at that point you can install those recipes. And keep in mind, our themes work with any type of page builder that you want, and that includes things like if you want to even use paragraphs, you can map your paragraphs to our components, and there's code examples exactly on how to do that. And then we also have a bunch of configuration in our recipes for Layout Builder. So if you want to continue to use Layout Builder, we ship a number of custom block types that we already have the mappings to that map to our components and stuff like that. Can you lock Canvas down for editors so they could only touch the content area? The answer right now is by default, they can only touch the content area. If you enable those global regions, at that point, they can move items into the global region. Can you lock that down? I know that was planned, but to tell you the truth, I don't know if it was implemented. So I'm not 100% certain on that yet, but this is probably something to easily check. Does Canvas work with paragraphs? The answer is no, not yet. But what you can do is you can bring in views into your canvas. So if you have a view that includes some type of paragraphs or something like that, you can bring that in. But Canvas, you cannot bring paragraphs directly in with Canvas yet. Any others?
Yep.
Are you using Tailwind? No, we do not use Tailwind. Tailwind, like I've done a couple projects with Tailwind, and I really like it. Enables you to throw out landing pages really, really quickly because you don't have to kind of jump between your CSS and your HTML and stuff like that. But as soon as you start doing variations within a single component, things can get messy pretty quick. And for that reason, we kind of just use Drupal's regular coding standards, which use BEM style CSS. Code components have the option to use Tailwind. Tailwind comes with Drupal Canvas when you're using code components, so you can do that, but we don't make heavy use of that. We do ship a number of utility CSS classes that, like for typography and spacing, that we use throughout the theme.
Good deal.
What about SEO? Yeah, so as you're creating, so SEO works as you would expect. Your meta tag module will work as you expect. When you're creating a page within Canvas, you have the option to set your page title, your meta description, and your image. And it allows you to do that. I don't know if there's options to change that around if you want to set different meta tags, but that allows you to set, the most common ones. As the Canvas markup is exposed to the page or like exposed to the end user, if you're using like standard single directory components, like server rendered single directory components like Dripyard themes are, it will render just like a normal Drupal page. So everything will be able to see that. If you're using code components, it uses JavaScript to render, and so that could have potential SEO implications. How about applying to existing sites? So the answer, have you been applying your theme to existing sites? So the answer is, it depends. It depends on that existing site, of course. For the most part, everything should work. So I would say yes, it should apply to your existing theme. But if you have existing content types, if you're not using Canvas, or if you want to, you still have to go into maybe your node templates or different views templates and do the mapping for components. Now we have like code samples like for each of our components on how to do that. And like, we even have a Slack channel where people can ask like, hey, I want to map a paragraph field into, so-and-so. Can you maybe walk me through that? And we're happy to help people out with that type of stuff. So if you have an existing site architecture, you still have to map those components, especially for things that you're going to use outside of Canvas. And that's just kind of the nature of the beast at this point. Can you lock Canvas down for editors so they can only touch the content areas? So we already answered this one. And the answer is it's kind of already, they can only touch the content area. And I'm not quite sure if you can, what level of locking down you can only do. I blame Andy for that duplicate.
I'm trying to keep up here.
I'm going pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I add a summary and an image to the page settings, not displayable in the normal view? So when it comes up to displaying content in a view, I can pull those fields out. So let me dissect it. So here, pull that up again, that question. Or so we want to add a summary to a view and a text to a view, and then only have it show up on within the view or something. I'm a little bit confused. Can I add a summary and image to the page settings? So you would add the summary and the image to the content to maybe a content type. Or oh, I understand. You want to add a summary and image to the actual Canvas page. So is the Canvas page fieldable, and could you display that content in a view? That's a really good question. I think right now the answer is no. I don't know of any way to do that. You understand that question, Andy?
A little bit, yeah. And I'm not sure. I haven't messed with. I mean, Canvas is an entity at heart.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I
it's an entity, but I don't know if there's a user interface to add fields to it. Our Canvas entity's fieldable. I mean, entities are fieldable in general, aren't they?
If they're defined as such.
Yeah. And it is an entity, so.
Yeah.
Does Dripyard theme out of the box work with, oh, we already answered this one. Let's move on.
The Wizard of Oz is back there just like popping things on the screen. It's pretty amazing. We big shout out to Steven for helping us with this.
Thank you, Steven. For clients with advanced SEO requirements, Core Web Vitals, Schema Markup, does Neon Byte support this natively, or would a developer be needed to extend the theme? So as far as Core Web Vitals, we do a lot of performance optimization. And that includes things like lazy loading images where appropriate, using responsive images, using modern image formats, only loading CSS when needed, only loading JavaScript when needed, preloading fonts and things like that. So like for example, if you go to dripyard.com and you look at it on Core Web Vitals, it's going to be very close to 100s all the way around. So getting into other questions as far as like SEO, setting more advanced controls on or more advanced settings within your different content types and things like that. That would be managed through the meta tag module, which I would argue that you need to be a Drupal site builder in order to use that. So I wouldn't call that like a developer task, but you need to know your way around Drupal. As far as if Dripyard themes support that, the answer is yes, because it's handled outside of the theme layer of Drupal. So we're shipping the themes, but outside of that, you have to install the meta tag module and configure that to automatically pull in the data and display that as needed, and that requires like site building expertise, or the ability to just read a few tutorials and know what you're doing. Do Canvas pages be indexed for search content? I believe, to tell you the truth, I haven't tested that out. So like our Canvas pages indexed by Drupal's normal search process. I would assume so, but to tell you the truth, I haven't tested that out. So I would give you a tentative yes on that, but if you want to be certain on that, you can email me or like ping me on Slack or however you want to get in touch with me, and I can test that out by enabling search and kind of running cron and making sure things work as expected. Is the canvas compatible with node revisions? I would assume yes, but once again, that's something I haven't tested out. As far as like the content templates, like as I mentioned before, like I am constantly testing out to see what works and what doesn't work. And at this point, for our themes, I'm not recommending using the content templates yet because they don't really support anything other than like the most basic types of content. And like for that reason, I haven't dove very deep in there. How do Andy and Mike, fans of Asheville and Florida Drupal camps respectively, cope with not having as good of a camp as mid camp? That's nothing ever. It's not anything that we have yet to consider because But for those of you that are not like super into Drupal that are listening, like Drupal camps are kind of local regional conferences organized by community members like Andy and I. And I live in Gainesville, Florida, and we're having a Drupal camp in Orlando in February. You can do a Google search for Florida Drupal Camp and you'll see it right there. And it's relatively inexpensive. I think it's like $50 or $75. And we'll have like about 150 people there. Andy and I are both going to be at Florida Drupal Camp, so you get to hang out with us if you want. And a lot of great sessions and stuff. Anything else? What does support cost after those first 2 months? That's a good question. We sell support for $100 a year. So that's relatively inexpensive. And what that gets you is access to updates. We're constantly updating our themes, especially because Canvas is a very fast moving target. Like in these past few months, we've done a lot of work just getting our themes ready, working with Canvas. There's things like Canvas edit mode that we currently do to make sure our components are very easily able to be manipulated within Canvas. Whether we'll still have to do that, I'm guessing yes, but there's a chance maybe no. And at that point, we might have to take it out. And we're going to be constantly adding new components in there. In addition to that, that gets you access to our private Slack where you can just ask quick questions. And we can point you in the right directions, point you to documentation, answer questions. There have been a number of people that have found bugs, and we fix those bugs relatively quick, And so, yeah. Are blocks supported in Canvas layouts? So inline blocks are not at this point. And what that means is if I want to go into Canvas and like, let's say I have a block type and this block type is called, I don't know, session or something like that. I can't input that data right there like you can in Layout Builder. But if I have an existing block, and let me share my screen really quick, Stephen. So if I have an existing block right here, I can go into, let me create a block really quick. All right, I have a block right here. So I have these blocks. These came in through the recipe that I had installed. I can go under the Appearance tab, and I have this component list right here. And I can search for the block. I forget what it was called. It was what's a button or something like that. And I can hit the enable button, right? I can hit enable over here. And once I hit enable, at that point, I would be able to do it. I would be able to add to that, and it would show up in the list of components. You can stop sharing my screen now if you want. All right, so there was another question up there, something about CTAs. Is it possible to move CTAs inside each tab? And the answer is yes. So you can put any component inside any slot. So like, let's say if you have your tab content, you can insert CTAs or anything that you want in there. You can put in button groups or anything. Can use Vimeo videos as well as YouTube videos. Right now, our current component only does YouTube videos. We use the YouTube Lite library. To do a Vimeo video, you would have to create the block content and then expose that to Canvas like I just showed in the demo when I was on that components tab. So the answer is yes, but it's a little bit more involved. How should we connect Drupal Canvas with our design system? That's a really good question. So there's right now, there's not an easy peasy way to do that. There's a couple issues in Drupal core to get new APIs added, and they're not going to hit 11.3, but in 6 months they will likely hit 11.4. And there's one for design tokens, and there is one for utility CSS classes. And basically what you can do is you define a YAML file in your theme or your module, and you define your CSS variables and how you want those to be used, and you can group them. And then you define a different YAML file for your utility classes, and that enables Drupal to know that these exist, and you can use those throughout your site. Once AI gets working, it'll be able to make use of those too. The design tokens, the CSS variables API will be able to import. My understanding is there will be some type of process. I don't know if it's going to come in through a contrib module or something, but it accepts a standard format, which I don't know the name of the format off the top of my head, but it's the format that Figma and other design applications export. So it'll enable you to easily connect, but right now everything's kind of still a manual process where you have to connect that through your CSS variables. Does Drupal Canvas come with predefined components and patterns out of the box, or do you have to create those on your own? The answer is it does not. Drupal CMS comes with a theme called Mercury that has some defined. It's not as flexible as our Dripyard themes. If you download Drupal CMS 2, which right now there's not an official release yet, so you can download it via Git and play around with it if you're a developer. But you're going to find some limitations in there. Canvas does ship with one component. It's an image component, but the image component is mainly intended to be used as a utility component to create responsive images, and it's actually hidden from the Canvas UI. So the answer is like really no, but there's a theme that can give you some. What about non-Canvas pages, like views pages? The global CSS is pretty bare bone. Do you have to override the template and insert the components with the twig files? How do you approach this issue? So I'm assuming, what about non-Canvas pages? Non-Canvas pages are currently handled the same way that they were before. So that is going to change. So like right now, like you're creating a view and you're outputting, a view of content. The view of content would be a view mode, and you would create a template for that view mode. Like with our theme, with anything, with Drupal in general, you still have to create that template to map the data. Each of our components come with code samples that show you exactly how to do it, so you can easily copy and paste and map your data in there, and that works fairly well, but it still requires a developer. It requires some Git commits and things like that. Coming into the future, after Canvas starts working a little bit is a little bit more robust with these content templates. It'll also, like right now, you can only edit the full content view mode with your content templates. But coming into the future, let's say you have a card view mode, you'll be able to inject a card component and start mapping your data that way. But it's not at that point yet.
Yeah, and you can create like Canvas landing page and drop views blocks in it. So if you wanted like your search results to be, wrapped in Canvas and have other components around them, you can do that. That's what we did in our landing page demo.
Yeah, and so Bob asks, like, since Canvas doesn't yet do complex fields like multiple entity reference fields, would you use views to display those on a Canvas template? I think right now that would be the way to do it. You can inject views into Canvas templates and you can put whatever data you want into views. Are there options to migrate existing paragraphs into Canvas? The answer is not yet. Chris and Paul, who's a contributor into Drupal core, has been working on a lot of that type of stuff. I don't know what status is, but as far as I know, there's nothing in Canvas, like in the Canvas module to enable that. And I'm not aware of any contrib modules to enable that. What should be the new approach in theme development? Should themes be forked or sub-themed? Is preferred way? What about backwards compatibility? Can base themes be updated? These are great questions. So in Drupal core, we have a concept of just like cloning the theme, right? And we do that so we don't have to worry about backwards compatibility. We're not in Drupal core right now. So when Dripyard ships a theme, we ship with a Dripyard base theme, which is our primary component library and has like a lot of base CSS styles for a lot of Drupalisms, things like, like sortable tables and, like drag in and drop in, like a lot of the little things that Drupal does that sometimes bleed into the front end. Then we have a theme that would be either like something like Neon Byte or Great Lakes or something like that. But we also ship a sub theme called like something like Neon Byte sub theme or Great Lakes sub theme, and we encourage people to put all of their changes within those sub themes so they can easily update their Dripyard themes and base themes as needed, and that'll get you like new components and new themes. Or
There's
not
also
new
a
themes.
starter kit.
Yeah, yeah. There's also a starter kit in case you want to name the theme your own thing. And we have some example code in there that shows you how to override or how to extend like CSS from some of our various SDCs and things like that too. When will production ready is a roadmap? I'm guessing when will Canvas be production ready, and is there a roadmap? So I don't know if there's an actual roadmap for Canvas or at this point. I'm considering Canvas production ready for landing pages. Like we're actively building out websites right now. We don't have any that are fully in production, but we're actively building out websites right now that use Canvas to do landing pages. I would not at this point use Canvas for things like content templates or anything or global regions, but for landing pages, it's awesome, and like I talk about all these things that Canvas cannot do, but the stuff that it does do is just amazing, and it's so usable and it's easy to drag and drop, and like compared to other solutions, it's night and day. So I'm kind of all in on this. What about existing themes? Is it possible to switch to a component-based theme? Are there migration tools? I don't know of any migration tools. It really depends on how your theme is architected. Like before single directory components existed, I always tried to componentize my themes in general anyway, which kind of enables you to go ahead and easily transition those into single directory components, which can then be used in Canvas and things like that. So it kind of depends on your existing theme. If you purchase a Dripyard theme, you can map your data to that and that'll work fine. So Wolfgang asks, is there a way to define a multiple image input? So Andy, correct me if I'm right. If I'm wrong, you actually did this, right? Like Canvas can do simple arrays, and it can do an array of images.
Yeah, I'm pretty
So
sure you can define it in your component. Like if you're building your own component, you can define an array of image fields, and that will give
mhm.
you the user interface to add more. And then you can obviously have multiple, like if you're doing a code component, you can have multiple props that are of the type image and upload them. But if you want them like contained in a single field, like what you're used to in like core Drupal, I think you would probably need to build your own SDC.
If I recall correctly, there's actually an example of that in the Canvas documentation too.
Yep, there is.
Also, all right, so also currently you can only replace a component completely and not only the twig, for example. Will there be a solution to that? The answer is probably no, because that was a design decision back in the day. Like as soon as you have components inheriting other components, they stop they stop being componentized. You know, at that point, you're kind of getting back to where Drupal was with like a complex system of inheritance. So there were some intentional decisions made back when single directory components was being introduced into core of should we allow things like pre-processing of SDCs, or should we allow SDCs to inherit another? And the answer was no. That being said, you can do things like override and extend the automatically generated SDC libraries. And you can also, like we have examples where we have multiple SDCs in the same directory, which I guess would be multiple directory anyway, but and you can use the same twig files by kind of doing an include and then using the component metadata.path variable and doing includes that way. There's some dragons there, especially involving slots. So if you play around with it, just make sure you test out slots too.
All right, I think we're going lightning mode for the rest of them.
Gosh. All right, so Greg asks, can you lock down Canvas to prevent people from using content templates? I don't know off the top of my head. That's a really good question. Yeah, so the answer is I don't know. Ryan asks, can content templates work for any content entity type or just node types?
Like commerce
Uh,
products.
yeah. As far as I know, just Node. Like I have seen Commerce installed where we have where we have Canvas installed, and I haven't seen options for that. So that's a good question.
But I mean, I think, based on the ways Drupal's built, if they're doing it for nodes, and it's all view mode based anyways, like rolling that out to other entity types is going to be pretty easy and the next step.
I would hope so, yeah.
Yeah.
So Anonymous asks, as I understand, patterns are composite components, correct? Pre-built sections. That is correct, yeah. And you can create your own, and it just works as you would expect. Patterns are really awesome, honestly. In Canvas, can you require that all library components go into sections? No. That comes back to the ability of being able to restrict components to go into certain slots and having restrictions on slots. There is a Drupal core issue that is getting very, very close. No, that's a different one. I think it's set to a needs review, but like there's a Drupal core issue that is, I don't know if it's RTBC or needs review, but it was getting very close to enable the SDC schema to allow to restrict or restrict components that go into slots. But I don't think it's a hard restriction, and there's a lot of use cases to take into account. like, what about, should we use restrict based on tags and things like that? So the answer is no, but that's coming down the line. Can you use Canvas without a mouse? The answer is, I have gone around to using Canvas by like tabbing around. I haven't attempted that yet. I know that there have been a number of different accessibility bops based on Canvas, which I haven't had the ability to attend yet. I don't know what the status of Canvas's accessibility is, except for the fact that I know a number of the developers that are actively contributing to Canvas are like core accessibility maintainers and that know accessibility well. So, but I can't speak to that personally. Are there plans to open source any Dripyard components and or recipes? The answer is like, at this point, no, because we're trying to support ourselves and trying to support our families based on this. And as soon as we open source stuff, but that might change. Like we're talking about like I have in my head, I would love to kind of open source like maybe some basic layouts as modules or something that we could integrate into. But like at this point, we haven't done that yet, or we haven't like really gave it serious consideration. Can Canvas?
Yeah, I would just interrupt you and say like anything that we build that's like extensions to Canvas, module like custom modules, stuff like that. We do plan on contributing those back to Drupal.org. So any module stuff we do would be posted there.
Yeah. Can Canvas access be limited by role? And how granular can it get? Let's take a quick look. Can you share my screen, Stephen? All right, and let's just take a look really quick, because I'm kind of curious about this myself right here. So we have options to create Canvas page, delete Canvas page, edit Canvas page, and publish Canvas pages. So that's your answer right there. All right, you can stop sharing. How to add a I saw another question up there. I think you went back by a second there, but there was an action there was a question to create content templates outside of full create a Canvas content template other than full content. And the answer is it does not yet support that. That will be coming, but it does not yet support that. And are there any more, or is that it, Andy or Stephen?
I think there's a couple more, but maybe that's it.
You want to read them off, or is there anything that you can see that's missing?
No, actually, I think that was the last one.
All right, cool.
Yeah, some of them are rather long, so I'll reply to directly.
Yeah. All right. So at this point, I think we're kind of done.
Actually, somebody asked you to show admin people permissions modules Canvas. Did you just do that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I showed that. So I was reading someone's mind.
Oh, wait, he says no, you didn't.
I totally did.
All right, that's Penny Esquito.
All right. Well, he's a developer on this, so let me do this again. Share my screen. So we got admin permissions Canvas.
Mm-hmm.
So admin.
Sorry, admin people permissions. Yeah, module Canvas.
Admin people permissions. I filtered by Canvas up here, but let me just go down in case. So it would be under Drupal.
He filtered by Canvas, but not all have Canvas in the name.
Oh yeah, so that's the difference right here. All right, so yeah, I'm glad that. Thank you.
It's helpful to have Canvas developers on.
Yeah, it really is. So yeah, so we have the ability to administer code components, administer content templates, administer folders, page templates, patterns, and yeah, and then of course all this other stuff that I previously talked about.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's fairly robust. Cool. Well, I appreciate everybody joining. Once again, we have some coupon codes up there, so I appreciate y'all looking at those and supporting us. Andy and I will both be speaking at Florida Drupal Camp. We'll also be speaking at DrupalCon in Chicago, and we'll hope be seeing you there, and feel free to email us or reach out however you want. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.